Flacco jumping.
Yes.
So this guy is being launched into a giant Velcro pad.
Oh, no.
And he
Absolutely.
just hangs.
That's not a black man's activity.
Yeah. What's the weight limit on the belt?
Yeah.
What happens if you
Marcus got to get
How
that.
much-
If
How
you
much
miss, I guess you
Velcro
fly
do you
into the
need?
lake.
My Velcro have to look like a bear suit.
Yeah.
What- like
and also,
what-
too, though, honestly, I'm more scared of the swimming.
What if-
Like, I'm not even scared.
I have another comment.
Yeah, I'm not even scared if I'm going to get stuck to this thing or not.
What are you doing when the idea sparks in your mind? You know what we should do, boys?
We should get shot out of a cannon.
David Letterman was doing this on TV 30 years ago, and people are just catching up. All right,
Really?
let's play a game of right or wrong. And RC, I'm going to begin with you. I'm going to begin in Cleveland. So I'm going to make the following statement. If I said Joe Flacco starting at quarterback for the Browns is the correct move, would you say that's right or wrong?
I think that's the wrong move. I think you should have looked at one of these rookies to see if you had your franchise quarterback in the building, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel, who I felt both had good debuts here in the preseason. You know what Joe Flacco is. Don't make the comfortable, familiar decision. Figure out if one of these young men that you drafted in the 3rd or the 5th round could be the guy.
Dan, I have been saying all along, I have gotten the sense from you, and you were there, that this was never particularly close to that happening.
Because everybody else got hurt. Like, do you want them to start the rookie with the hamstring injury or the rookie with the oblique injury? Or like they're not, those guys didn't get the practice time they needed in training camp to be ready yet. So, look, they didn't announce yesterday that Joe Flacco's starting all 17 games. They started starting the first one. So I do think they're still in the back of their minds. Like, look, first of all, you don't know how a season's going to go. Let's say Flacco and the Browns start 5-0, right? Then you keep it rolling. We don't feel like that's likely. At some point, I do think they'll get a look at these rookies, but I don't think as good as, they had their moments in their preseason games, but I think there's still work to do with both of them, and starting Flacco is an admission of that.
That's fair. I'm with RC. I've been from the jump saying start one of those rookies. I think the most interesting thing right now is who's going to be QB2, who comes out.
Yes.
Because the depth chart really hasn't mattered up until this point, all that stuff.
Sanders has been 4 pretty much throughout.
Yeah, and Kenny Pickett really hasn't done much because of the injury. So
Right.
if I'm Cleveland, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, you put one of these rookies at QB2, maybe you put both of them, dress them both, and just get them ready for October and November because.
Dan, I have a question. Should the work at practice be different than what you normally delegate the practice reps, right? Because a lot of times when you're the 2, you don't get a ton of time with the starting offense or the ones. If you have one of these guys listed as 2nd on the depth chart, are you preparing them in a different way than what you normally would?
Yeah, I would slightly, a little bit, yes. I would slightly, but you also, Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, has got to make sure that they're doing everything they can for everybody else to get ready to win the game. This isn't just, hey, we're just focused on the quarterback. So it's a fine balance, but I do think getting those guys reps in preparation for what the plan is, whether they're having decent success or not, should be at the forefront.
That's the key. The next couple weeks, you got to get Flacco ready to start the game, obviously. But you also have to figure out who the 2 is, because the 2 could play at any second, right? Like we saw Brian Daboll throwing Jackson Dart into the game without telling him ahead of time, right? Because you want to know if he can do that. So is it Gabriel? Is it Pickett? Is it Sanders? A, who's the healthiest? And B, who's prepared to do that? Like jump in a game.
It shouldn't be
if something
Kenny
happens
Pickett,
to Flacco.
It shouldn't be Kenny.
Well, he hasn't practiced.
Shefty suggested yesterday that they would keep all 4 quarterbacks on the roster just as commodities, and you never know, someone trades for a Kenny Pickett or maybe even trades for one of the rookies, depending on how things go along. But keeping 4 quarterbacks on the active roster is for the most part, a rarity.
Yeah.
What is your sense of the whole thing, Swagoo? They opened, by the way, against the Cincinnati defense. We just spent 10 minutes talking about how bad they are.
This should have never been a competition that we shouldn't have ever said Joe Flacco name. Like, the plan was Joe Flacco start and let these 3 duke it out to figure out who's going to be our starter eventually. And I'm not a big proponent of them starting at the beginning of the season. I don't know the rep count in practice. I don't know how many looks they had against the number 1 defense. I know Myles Garrett rushing is completely different than the other guys that are in there. But that's what I said after Shedeur performance. I said that performance should have bought him more reps of good on good in practice to compete for who was going to be the number 2 guy to eventually be the number 1. Like, that sounds logical to me. The one thing that worries me, and we talked about this last night, is if you're getting to this point with Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, and you're saying we're 2 weeks away from the season, now we going to start treating one of you guys like a backup, and something bad happens to Joe Flacco, both are set up for failure.
Yeah.
And that's the part that bothers me. I'm saying if you didn't have Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, because Kenny Pickett has been dealing with the injury, obviously, if you didn't have them getting second team reps, at times getting reps with the ones, and now you going into this point
Real
saying,
games.
hey, Dylan, you the two, or Shedeur, you the two. Well, bro, I'm so far behind of what it's like to be out there with David Njoku. I'm so far behind game-like scenarios that Joe Flacco has been through a million times.
Yeah.
So let me make sure I'm clear on what you're saying. At this point, they need not only to choose their starter, but choose the backup. They have to pick between the rookies
100%.
and say that guy is next.
They can't split reps going forward.
Yeah, like it's you in season.
Flacco gets hurt in the first game, they're not going to look at the sideline and go, who wants to play?
Right.
Like, they got to know who it is that's ready to play.
But shouldn't they have, like, to me, it should have been, if that's your mindset, right, we're going to start one of these veteran guys, it should have been two competitions going on at the same time throughout training camp. Figure out who the best older veteran guy is, and we're going to figure out who the best rookie is, and we walk into the season with those two people, 1-2 on the depth chart, understanding that's the way we'll play out.
That is my point.
And
For all we know, that's what they did.
If they had all stayed healthy, I think that's exactly what would have happened.
That's the thing.
But they didn't.
Sanders played that entire game because Gabriel was hurt, and then
And
Gabriel
Pickett was
played
hurt.
the entire game
Pickett
because
as well.
Sanders was hurt.
Sure.
So again, we're sort of taking Kenny Pickett out of this, maybe wrongly.
No, wrongly, but he has missed the most practice time this camp.
I guess what I'm saying is, in your mind, and look,
I
we've
don't
seen
know that
whatever
answer.
little we've seen. There's no way to know.
Yeah, I don't
which
know
guy
that answer
should be
because
the number two.
each guys have one body of work that we know of.
Right.
Yeah.
And by all reports, at least that I've seen, Shedeur's been the best in practice, numerically and just kind of like visually. How reporters have said, like Shedeur has looked the best day after day after day. They both have had a start and both have played pretty darn well. But to Marcus's point, I do think that's important because, and this is with all due respect to the two young kids, the regular season is a different beast.
Yes, sir.
The speed at those starting defenses is a different animal. So, like, you want those guys to get reps against starting defenses. And to RC's question, I do think Cleveland would be smart to build in a period where that backup quarterback as a rookie plays against your starting defense and Flacco doesn't, just because the speed is a different world.
We had periods that was competition periods. Right, you'd be the end of the practice, and you might say, okay, we're going third down here, we're going 2 minute here, we're going red zone here. Right, it's unscripted, and both coaches on each side of the ball are calling the plays as the ball moves. Those guys need those sorts of reps against the Myles Garretts and the Denzel Washingtons in case they have to be thrust into the game.
It's pretty rare.
Denzel Washington?
But
I'm sorry,
Denzel
Ward.
Denzel Washington would also be an interesting.
I'm putting cases on.
The rare situation.
Highest to lowest.
It's the rare circumstance
reviews.
where seeing who the number 2 quarterback is might be more interesting than seeing who was number 1. As we continue, I'm just going to say it. We are sleeping on the Giants. We'll tell you exactly what this team is